The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency David Renbok Adeg, President and Head of State of the Republic of Nauru. I request the protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies and distinguished delegates. As the President of the Republic of Nauru, a small island nation with a vision for a more equitable and sustainable future, I bring you warm greetings from the government and the people of Nauru. In this 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly, we gather at a time of unprecedented global challenge and opportunity. As we navigate the complexities of the 21st century, Nauru remains committed to the principles of sovereignty, self-determination, and international cooperation that have guided our collective progress since the UN's founding. Mr. President, as a nation surrounded by the ocean, Nauru has a vested interest in the responsible stewardship of the ocean's marine resources. We have been at the forefront of international efforts to protect and sustainably use the ocean's resources, including developing and adopting the BBNJ agreement and exploring the wealth of the deep seabeds mineral resources in line with our objectives under the 2050 Blue Pacific Strategy. The greatest risk we face is not the potential environmental impacts of mineral recovery, but the risk of inaction. There is a risk of failing to seize the opportunity to transform to renewable energy and to decarbonize our planet. We cannot let fear and misinformation hold us back. Instead, we must use the knowledge we have gathered wisely to ensure that deep-sea mineral recovery, under the principle of the common heritage of mankind, does not compromise the integrity of our marine environment. This is not just an economic opportunity, it is an environmental imperative. We therefore call on the international community not to ignore the science and progress we have made. Instead, we urge you and the International Seabed Authority Council to work with us to establish and adopt robust regulations necessary for the conservation and sustainable use of marine resources. We have the science, we have the technology, and we have the imperative. Let us rise to the challenge and opportunity before us, employing our investments for the good of all, and let the time for action be now. Mr. President, Nauru's story is not one of despair, but of resilience. Our people have thrived for centuries, living in harmony with the land and the sea. Today we adapt, we innovate, and we persevere. We are exploring new frontiers because even as we fight against the effects of climate change, we must also adapt to the reality that is upon us. Through initiatives like the Higher Ground Project, we are reclaiming land, strengthening our infrastructure, and securing our future. Adaptation initiatives to address modern challenges and concerns demand more than technical expertise. They require substantial financial resources, which is an ongoing struggle. When it comes to climate finance, we are too often relegated to the back of the queue. We must also address the critical issue of access to basic financial services. For nations like Nauru, equitable access to banking is not merely a convenience, it is a lifeline. Yet we face the growing threat of de-risking and the loss of correspondent banking relationships. This challenge transcends financial concerns. It strikes at the heart of our sovereignty and our dignity. Our nation's struggles cannot be measured by income alone. We are vulnerable in myriad ways, and the global financial system must evolve to reflect this complex reality. We are encouraged by the recent adoption of the Multidimensional Vulnerability Index, or the MVI, and we further call upon the World Bank, IMF, IFI, and MDBs to integrate the MVI into their frameworks. It is not just another statistic, it is a tool that provides a more accurate picture of our national circumstances, our strengths, our challenges, our potential. Mr. President, one of the most pressing issues of our time is the rising tensions between global powers. Nauru has long believed in the importance of maintaining good relations with all nations, great and small. We are friends to all and enemies to none, guided by our national motto, God's will first. Our restored diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China are a testament that even the largest and the smallest of countries can find common ground and work towards mutual benefit. Nauru is proud of our strong and growing relationship with China, and I take this opportunity to further commend their recent agreements with Japan on the ocean discharge of Fukushima nuclear contaminated water. This historic accord represents a significant step towards addressing a pressing issue of global concern. Mr. President, as a staunch friend, we continue to call for an immediate and unconditional end to the decades-long embargo imposed on Cuba. As we know, conflicts and tensions persist across many regions of the world. In our in our shared pursuit of progress and prosperity, it is crucial to acknowledge that conflict impedes growth and undermines community stability. Therefore, we must intensify our efforts to foster peace and development free from the shadow of conflict. Let us reaffirm our commitment to building bridges of understanding, nurturing empathy, and promoting reconciliation. We must understand that peace and development are not separate entities, but intertwined pillars of human progress. Peace creates an environment where individuals can thrive, communities flourish, and nations prosper. In the absence of conflict, societies can better allocate resources to education, healthcare, infrastructure, and sustainable economic growth, fostering the advancement of all people. Let's work together towards a future where everyone can live with dignity, harmony, and opportunity, leaving behind a legacy of peace for generations. By prioritizing conflict resolution, we pave the way for resilience, progress, and shared prosperity. We must focus on building bridges, not walls, and work towards a more integrated, connected world. Inclusivity and engagement are vital as we strive for full economic and financial participation, ensuring that no country, large or small, regardless of its development status, is left behind. This is a call for collective action, a call we must all heed for the sake of our shared future. The UN Security Council reform, long overdue, must reflect the geopolitical realities of the 21st century. It is evident that the current structure of the UN Security Council has been a subject of debate, with legitimate concerns about representation, effectiveness, and the ability to address contemporary security issues. The imperative for peaceful resolutions and pursuing lasting peace in conflict-affected regions further underscores the critical need for a reformed and strengthened UN Security Council. Let us be the leaders who bring about a new era of peace and reconciliation. In our pursuit against climate change, we continue to call on the UNSG to appoint a special representative on climate and security. We are pleased to endorse the call for a fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty, and we urge countries to back this initiative for a sustainable and equitable future. And we also eagerly await the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice on climate change, and will closely follow and support the implementation of the Court's guidance in the pursuit of climate justice. Nauru is pleased to welcome the Pact of the Future's ambition, yet we are disappointed in the removal of Action 21. My delegation, alongside members from the Group of Friends on Climate and Security, advocated for its inclusion to address the security threats posed by the climate crisis. Removal of Action 21 was a non-negotiable issue, and despite our flexibility to compromise, it is vital to stress the gravity of our decision. Mr. President, before I conclude, I call on the following. To the developed nations, we say, recognize your historical responsibility for emissions and honor your obligations under the Paris Agreement. Provide the climate finance and technology transfer you have promised. Support our efforts to transition to renewable energy, to enhance our climate resilience, and to protect our biodiversity. And to those who seek to block our efforts in sourcing renewable energy resources, Do not dismiss the potential of deep-sea minerals outright. Do not ignore the science and the progress we have made. Instead, work with us to establish the robust regulations necessary for responsible mining. In line with this year's theme, we must accelerate our efforts without delay, because the climate crisis will not wait for us to get our acts together. To our fellow developing nations, we extend our hand in solidarity. Let us share knowledge, resources, and solutions. Let us amplify our collective voice, for in unity there is strength. And to the United Nations, we call upon you to fulfill your founding promise. Be a bastion of multilateralism, the resolute champion of the vulnerable, and the bold catalyst for the transformative change our world so desperately needs. Mr. President, I conclude my remarks by reminding us that leaving no one behind is not a mere platitude. It is a moral imperative. It is a call to action, a reminder that our fates are intertwined, and the advancement of all hinges on the advancement of the least among us. This is the vision enshrined in the United Nations Charter, and this is the promise of the Sustainable Development Goals. Nauru may be small in size, but our resolve is immense. We will continue to fight for our homeland and our future generations. Let us act together with urgency, with ambition, and with the conviction that a better world is possible. May God bless the Republic of Nauru. May God bless the United Nations. Matubakar. I thank you.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the President and Head of State of the Republic of Nauru. We shall now continue for general debate.